Belly pan basically is going to consist of these two side formers, a back piece. Remember, the belly pan stays with the wing. This back piece and a front piece, and then top sheeting. Both of the formers required quite a bit of trimming, just like the wing saddle did, to get them to fit decently. But I think I got them somewhere decent. So since the wing, or the belly pan stays with the wing, I'm going to put a little bit of packing tape on the fuselage part so that this won't stick to the fuselage. But what I am going to try to do, I'm going to try to see if I can get this to stick to the packing tape, because I kind of want it to stay in place. Yeah, I don't think it's going to stick. In that case, I think I can peel it away with the long blade. Working on both the belly pan and the wing, rear wing hold down, and I'm just going to kind of show you what I'm doing instead of actually doing it, because it's a lot of trial and error, a lot of fitting, sanding to fit. But I'll show you what I have so far. So the flap linkage, first thing I did was I concealed, or I captured it by adding 1/16, or I guess this is about 2 millimeter balsa. Did that on both sides. So now the linkage is fully captured. And then to even out the side here, I'm just adding a piece of 5 mm balsa, and that gives me a level playing surface, if you will. To this, I will have a ply mounting plate, and I will try to have that ply plate about centered or in line with the center line of the rib. And then the wing blocks will probably be something like this. I don't think I'll use these. I think what I want to do is have a blank in here and then drill a hole through both the ply plate and the wood mounting block at the same time. And also I've got the sides, and these aren't glued in place, they're just being positioned here, but this will be for the belly pan. And then I think I'm going to have to make up another former to go in the center. I think there's just too much sag here, but yeah, there'll be a balsa sheet over the top of that. A couple of 2 mm balsa templates that were easy to make, so now I'll transfer these to 3 mm ply. Ply plates are glued in. These are 3 mm light ply, about 1/8 of an inch. And by themselves, they probably would not be enough. However, to add strength to the plates, I'm going to be gusseting all the way around, top and bottom. And for the wood blocks underneath, I'm going to try to have a balsa pad, which is glued to the ply, so that when the wing comes down, the pad contacts the block and provides a little cushioning to it and takes some of the stress off of the ply plate. Working on the side pieces now for the belly pan. I looked at a lot of photos on the internet. I never really could find a good one that was definitive. I can't tell if this piece is straight or if there's a slight curve to it. I'm going to make the assumption that it's straight. It's a home-built aircraft in real life, so I guess that would be the easiest way to do it, and then try to bend some tubing. So I'm using 2 mm balsa. I think it's 2 mm, it might be 2.5. And I'm going to make it straight from here to here. I'm using gussets to glue it in. Now these gussets have the grain that runs parallel to the hypotenuse, or as parallel as I can make it. So what we have so far, I've gone ahead and added the gussets to the bottom here for the ply mounting plate. I will do the ones on the other side when I take the wing off. And I have the sides in for the belly pan. I think they turned out okay, about as straight as I can make them. They appear to be a little bit curved, but that might be because as the former moves forward, it also sort of kind of angles in for the cowl. So I think that's one reason. But anyway, they seem to work out pretty well. Before I add the sheeting and some other things to the belly pan, I should probably go ahead and drill my holes for the wing hold down bolts. Before I do that, I need to add the wood blocks, the fuselage. So let me try to make sure I can cut free this wing before I go any further. Well, the instructions said that there would probably have to be a little bit of relief up here to get this thing out. The wood mounting blocks are ready to be glued in. These are 3/8 inch thick pine. Pine's about the best wood I have to use. These will be drilled and tapped for a nylon bolt. This will be a 6 mm nylon bolt. And a couple of, you have to cut a couple of bevels on this. You can probably see that it's not a perfect rectangle. First you have to cut an angle where the former and the fuselage meet. It's a little bit of an obtuse angle, I think is the right word. Anyway, so you have to angle for that. And then the fuselage side, as it slopes down, it actually widens. So you have to have a little bit of a bevel on this side as well to account for that. And that keeps the block pretty much level. And I've tried to make the wing ply mounting plate level so that the bolt will have a straight shot and there shouldn't be any other forces acting on it, just the tension force as you tighten it down. So these are ready to be glued in, and then I'll be adding some gussets to these as well. I'm using 30-minute epoxy for this. For this clamp, I'm using a sacrificial piece of scrap balsa to protect the side. Ready to drill the holes for the wing hold-on bolts. I have the wing weighted down a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't shift. It shouldn't. It's pretty well stuck in there. I drew a couple of lines where the end of the wood block is down in the fuselage, and then drew a couple little tick marks where I want the holes to be. They're going to be right on the outside edge of the wing belly pan. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Now this first bit is a 5mm bit, and the drill bit for the tap is just slightly larger, not by much. So I'm going to start with this wood bit to get through the ply, and then I think I may switch over to the other bit for the actual wood block. I didn't mention it because it was shown previously, but I measured each wingtip against the tail post, and they were both equidistant. before I tap these holes, I want to harden up this pine a little bit. Hope it'll make a cleaner cut. Alright, I'm pretty happy with the way these turned out. This one I like. This one, the hole got a little bit closer to the edge than I was really hoping for. But I think they'll be alright. Let's put the wing on and see how it fits. I did use a step reamer to enlarge these holes to 6. And I think I'm probably going to have to relieve these gussets a little bit for the nylon washer. Matter of fact, I won't even use the nylon washer yet. Alright, seems good. Added 2 5mm balsa pads, and they are pretty much, as far as I can tell, a perfect fit. So really the last thing to do, and it's actually shown on the plans, is to have a paper conduit coming up so it's easy to access the bolts and the holes with the belly pan on. But I think I'll wait and do that after I get the belly pan part in. While the rest of this video covers the belly pan, it was actually constructed at a later time in the build. I'm including it here to maintain continuity. First thing before I sheet the top, you will notice I have a little bit of a gap along here, up front, a little on this side as well. To fill this gap, I'm going to use a baking soda and CA. Now again, do this at your own risk. This is not for everyone. I don't mind doing it for fillets like this where gaps that I need to fill. Remember, you cannot use it for anything structural. It's just far too brittle for that. Also remember that baking soda, when hit with CA and it's cured, it will sand like concrete. It's impossible to sand it or blend it in with, say, balsa without just really gouging the balsa out. So the way to really make this work is to put tape on the outside, the part that will be seen, and then your baking soda and CA go on the inside. When you apply thin CA, this will give off some serious fumes, so I would highly recommend having some sort of ventilation. I won't be able to finish up this forward joint until I take the wing off. I don't want the CA getting down between the wing and the fuselage joint. That would be very bad. Let's pull the tape and see how it looks. The reason I like this method is because it's quick, it's easy, and if you do it right with the tape, it really shouldn't require much, if any, sanding at all. The tape side here is smooth, and normally the tape does not really stick to this mixture. Got a little bit sticking right there, but normally it really does, as you can see, it doesn't really stick. So this gap is now filled, and it's smooth enough for fiberglass. That's actually going to work out pretty nicely. But I stress, do this at your own risk. This time you can see no tape stuck down, and it's a really nice considering it's baking soda and CA, it's a very nice smooth joint. This side is actually better than the other side. One last thing to mention, if you should try this baking soda fillet method, is to use thin layers of baking soda. If you try to use too much, a thick layer of baking soda, sometimes the CA doesn't come all the way through to the, to the outside, or the area that you're trying to get filled up. And then you peel the tape and you've got baking soda that's not been glued down, and that creates kind of a mess, because now there's no way to really get to it from the inside. You've already sealed the inside. So it's best to, if you have, and I wouldn't do this for really thick gaps or really large gaps, but if you do have a larger gap, do this in thin layers. Again, the tape is going to hold this first layer kind of close to it, so you can hit that with CA and then kind of add some more baking soda, CA more, until you finally get something that works well. So I have my bottom sheeting. I'm going cross grain, but even with the cross grain, I found that in the middle part here, without the support, it was too easy to push into the sheeting. I was afraid I was going to break it. So I've added kind of a center former, if you will. I didn't want to take the time and effort to actually make a one-piece former, so what I did was I took scrap 3/32, it's about 3 mm, balsa, 1/4 inch wide strips, and I just glued up several strips, and now I'm going to have to go in and sand it down flush with the outer edges. All right, that went a whole lot faster than trying to come up with a former that had the contour shape of the wing. And putting the sheeting on, oh yeah, that gives great support right there. All right, I've got the belly pan sanded down. It's looking real nice. The rounded over both edges. I believe on the real airplane, both edges would be tubing, be rounded. In part B, we finish up the belly pan by adding stringers to the bottom of the fuselage and to the belly pan that simulates the steel tubing of the real aircraft, so that we can add fabric to it later.